And welcome into PressBox Live. I'm Stan the Fan Charles of PressBox and PressBoxOnline.com. With me is Bill Ordine, and we've got an interesting show to talk a little bit about the status of legalized sports betting in the state of Maryland. But first, I got to tell you about a sure bet, and that is using C3 American Exteriors. Go to their website at c3america.com to get a brand new roof for just the cost of your insurance deductible. And that's in the case of hail damage, damage by storms, hurricanes, and all that. Your insurance will support that. But c3america.com is the website. The company is C3 American Exteriors. And like I like to say every Monday and Wednesday before these Zooms and after them, there is no greater expense you'll have in your home than fixing, repairing, or replacing your roof. You need to like the people you're dealing with, know the people you're dealing with, and trust them. I can say those three things about C3 American Exteriors. But one person who knows his stuff, and I trust what he says, and I like him, is Bill Ordine of gambling.com, longtime sports writer, investigative journalist, back before his sports days. Bill Ordine joins us to talk about what's going on in the state of Maryland. But Bill, I start out with just a more general question.
Sure.
About, I guess, 10 or 15 years ago, sports business, reading about sports business became a big deal with Street and Smith, starting the Sports Business Journal and all that. Is sports betting now, is the business of sports betting becoming an entity unto itself where people are fascinated and want to know what's going on across the country?
I think there really is. And it's in part, I think, propelled by the fact that so many gambling companies and online gambling companies and sports wagering companies are now publicly traded. I mean, there's a lot of ways to get some skin in the game here.
Yeah.
Not only do you have the opportunity to go and bet on a team and on many other things involving sports, but now you can also invest in it if you think that this is an industry that's got some traction to it.
Now, all these companies that are coming in, the names we know, like Live Casino down in Anne Arundel County, and MGM, which is down at the outside of Washington D.C.
Yeah.
Are they all publicly traded companies now? And more importantly, is this sports betting thing really going to move the needle at those companies?
Well, those are two good questions. To answer the first question first, some of them are, many of them are. In the case of Live Casino, no, it's not publicly traded.
Right, that's privately held.
The Cordish Companies is a privately owned company at this point. And there's no indication that'll be otherwise. Certainly MGM is been a long time publicly traded company. The Horseshoe at Caesars Entertainment, that's publicly traded. Up in the northern part of the state, Hollywood Casino is Penn National, that's publicly traded. So yeah, a lot of these places are now publicly traded.
And FanDuel and DraftKings, are they both publicly traded, or are they now one company together?
No, they're not one company. No, not by a long shot. DraftKings is publicly traded on its own since April of last year. They entered the public markets through a device known as a SPAC. It's a big deal on Wall Street these days. I think it's special purpose acquisition company. It was kind of another way to offer an IPO. FanDuel is part of a much larger UK company. Well, no, I think it's an Irish company called Flutter. So FanDuel is part of the portfolio of a foreign company, a publicly traded foreign company. And I believe it's traded on the London Exchange. So you can see, what the opportunity is to, if you believe in this industry, to, like I said, get some skin in the game yourself as an investor. So I'm sorry, there was a second question. I think I forgot it now.
That's all right. You answered the main part. Well, it's does this industry of the legalized sports betting, everybody, all the big companies, FanDuel, Penn National, Barstool Sports, BetMGM, they all want to sign up as many people as they can to use their app. But is this really going to move the needle for these companies?
Yeah, that was your question.
Okay.
And I will tell you this. First of all, let's come to an understanding about the sports wagering thing as a business at the moment. For some of these companies, this is a big money loser so far.
Right. They've
Uh,
not, like FanDuel and DraftKings have never made a penny, have they?
Not
They've
in
lost.
profit, right? In
Yeah,
profit.
profit.
I mean, because of FanDuel being part of a larger company, their P&L is not broken out as far as I know. Maybe other people do, but I don't know about their P&L being broken out. But let's take DraftKings, which is one of the best known companies. I mean, they lose about $300 million a quarter so far. So that's a lot of cheddar, right?
Yeah.
But this is all about player acquisition. And whenever you talk, you cannot look at the gambling world and the online gambling world the way you look at, your household budget. They are all about capturing a market for the future. And whenever you point out to companies like this, gosh, you're losing an awful lot of money right now, aren't you? They got a one-word answer for you: Amazon. And they will point out, how many years in a row Amazon lost money.
Right.
And in doing so, Amazon was, if monopoly is, or monopolizing is not the right word, certainly Amazon went out and captured a huge share of the American consumer market in a whole bunch of different product categories. And that's what these guys want to do. I mean, they want to capture the lion's share or huge share of the sports betting market. People like you and me, sports fans. Yep. And that when the tide turns for them, then the profits will be huge. And you said, well, it moved the needle. It's a very complex question because sports gambling is not the only silo they're operating in.
Right.
They are looking to transition sports gamblers into simply online gamblers.
Right.
And there is a ton of money to be made in online casino play.
So let me jump in.
I'll stop right there.
Okay. Let me jump in. And again, we're talking with Bill Ordine, and Bill was with us, was our gaming writer at Pressbox for a long time, for 4 or 5 years, and at a non-lucrative time in that world. But Bill is now one of the senior writers at gambling.com, a website that focuses in on the business of gaming. And we're going to talk about Maryland and what the timing of this is, when we're actually going to be able to bet. But I do want to ask you one important question to me. When you talk about DraftKings and FanDuel, and there were several others when they first appeared,
right,
about 5 years ago.
In the daily fantasy.
They
started out in daily fantasy.
Right.
And there were other competitors in that.
That's my question. Was their play all along, no, we're going to lose a lot of money for 5-7 years, but this legalized gambling is going to come about and we'll be in a position to be the bookie, the sports book. Was that the game plan, or did they really think that fantasy football and fantasy sports was going to be viable enough and lucrative enough to make them the money that they thought they could make?
Look, that's a really good question. I wish I could read Jason Robbins's mind. Jason Robbins is the CEO of DraftKings.
Right.
I mean, it's hard to believe, frankly, that when FanDuel was created in 2009, 2010, thereabout. I wrote my first story on FanDuel in 2010. DraftKings didn't even come into existence until 2012. At that point, the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act looked like it was going to be around forever.
Right.
There have been challenges to it, and the challenges never really made much headway. And it wasn't until 2018 that PASPA, that the law that basically was guarding the gate against sports gambling in the United States, it wasn't until 2018 that that law was struck down by the U.S. Supreme Court.
Yeah.
I mean, they would have needed a heck of a crystal ball to predict that. I think that they pretty much believed in the concept of fantasy sports, daily fantasy sports, as pretty much an alternative to the fact that there would never be legal sports gambling in the United States. I mean, even if you were pushing your DFS agenda predicated on, PASPA, standing the test of time like Gibraltar, I guess you would figure DFS was a pretty good business model. But to say that these guys had in their mind, oh, well, this is what we're going to do. We're going to build this database of betting guys
enthusiasts,
and then when we have sports gambling in the United States, we will have millions and millions of email addresses that we can turn around and capitalize on.
It just seems
that might have been somewhere down in their thinking as plan C or D, but I can't believe that that's what they were thinking all along.
It's really funny because I'm a guy and I talk about it sometimes that I come from a background of being a compulsive gambler. Fantasy sports is something that I play, and I don't view it that I view I'm compulsive about it, but not in the amount of money that I play for.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? But
yeah,
the things that are compulsive come out in me. But it's really interesting as much as the fantasy world exploded with football fantasy.
Yeah.
I find it hard to believe that these companies really thought that they were going to make beaucoup dollars out of fantasy sports.
Well, not just them, but one of the earliest investors in DraftKings was Major League Baseball.
Yeah,
and I think they were an investor in DraftKings. Don't hold me to the year, but I believe it was like the year they started, like 2012. I think it was about.
It was very early. Yeah,
and it was very early on. Jerry Jones got in very early. A number of large players. Now, I mean, maybe the kind of money they were investing was, pocket change for them at the time, but there were believers in the concept that daily fantasy sports, as opposed to that season-long thing, that daily fantasy sports was going to be added value to sports leagues because of the type of interest they engendered in the games.
There's no question about that. One other aspect of this I want to talk about, and that is was what DraftKings and FanDuel, were they sort of waylaid by the insider people that made up the largest portion of the pots and the largest winners? It was almost like wired, like I would get on or you would get on and we'd pick one or two teams.
Yeah, right.
There are players that were picking hundreds of teams based on algorithms that told them who to take.
Yeah.
And the average guy really didn't have a legitimate shot to win those big pots.
Well, I mean, that is true. And I think we have to understand that in most gambling, whether we're talking about sports gambling or casino gambling, or you're talking about daily fantasy gambling, that a small percentage of players dominate the handle.
Right.
And that the operator really counts on this very active population of gamblers, whether we're talking about casinos or whatever. And it was, simply true also of daily fantasy. It's kind of noticeable in daily fantasy because of the way, it was structured, where you could go online and you can see yourself relative to all your competitors.
Right.
And if if one of the good players, one of the whales, if that guy's name was Football Whale, and you saw Football Whale, Football Whale, Football Whale, and there's one little Stan Charles, and then Football Whale, Football. Now then it became more obvious that a small number of people were dominating.
Especially when Football Whale guy from the Ivy League who would have been working for one of these teams, or working for a stat company.
Yeah.
It really didn't turn out to be what I think was a fair game. And I think it dissuaded little Stan Charles or little Bill Ordine from playing as much as we might have if it appeared it was like a level playing field.
Well, I don't think there's any question. It's happened in poker too, by the way.
Yeah.
It's happened in poker too, where, in games of skill, where not just skill, but bankroll come into play in
Right.
terms of success. You're going to find that out. I mean, it's going to be really Darwinian. I mean, the people who are bankrolled, the people who are really, really versed in the game are going to dominate. And it will winnow down what is known as the ecosystem. It'll thin out the ecosystem of that particular activity. And again, that would apply to poker and has applied to poker as well as daily fantasy. And people get discouraged and they leave, and then maybe some new people come in. And it's the circle of life in gambling.
So I do want to circle into Maryland, but I want to do it by way of another state. The first state outside of Nevada to really get into the gaming thing was New Jersey.
That's
I
right.
know Delaware had some parlay thing for
Mhm.
several years, but so New Jersey, how much of a success has this been for the state of New Jersey in terms of what it's brought in? Do you have any idea what those numbers?
I couldn't give you the numbers now, but the numbers are healthy. In terms of handle, it's been extraordinary.
Right.
I think they have kind of touched on $1 billion a month in handle.
Wow.
In the real good
Just their sports betting.
Yeah, just the sports betting.
Okay.
And now, but handle is way different than revenue, and revenue is way different than profit.
Right.
But it's been, I was just at a summit on sports wagering down at Live Casino, and the question was asked, well, who does this? What states do this well, and what states don't do this so well? And Jersey always comes up as kind of the gold standard in how they operate. When you look at how they've decided to hand out licenses and what their tax rate is, what the accessibility is for the customers. And of course, Jersey also has profited from the fact that New York has been a very slow mover in sports wagering. So up in North Jersey, you get a lot of those bridge and tunnel people coming across the river and
play in New Jersey.
And play in Jersey. Yeah.
All right. So Maryland.
Yeah.
Eventually, will it be $1 billion?
No, not $1 billion a month in Maryland. No, I'd be handle.
No. So
not enough people.
What would realistically 300 million?
I've written this, Stan, and I can't even remember what I've written about or what I've said in terms of handle and in terms of taxes. But I will tell you this, because I've written this. It is a nice amenity to have, but at maturity, just let me give you this kind of one figure, this one statistical comparison. At maturity, the amount of state taxes that are raised through sports gambling in Maryland will amount to about 1/2 of what is contributed by the casino slot machines in 1 month. If I remember this correctly, it's there about that. That's kind of the comparison where
it's
the
relatively
slot machines, the existing slot machines. I'm talking about the real slot machines. I'm not talking about online slot machines because we don't have that in Maryland yet. Right? I don't know that we ever will, but just the real slot machines that we have contribute an enormous amount of tax money to the state of Maryland, and it's about twice as much as you would expect in an entire year from sports wagering, frankly. And the sports wagering would be both at an actual book and on your virtually on your computer, on your cell phone. So sports wagering in terms of that figure for Maryland, it's going to be, a nice chunk of change for the state. Is it anywhere near equivalent to what slot machines contribute? No,
Not at all.
absolutely not.
Okay.
Not even close.
Yeah.
And it'll be, a nice opportunity for the casinos, the 6 casinos, to bring in more customers who will do other things.
Yeah.
Who will
And
play.
that's the real game that the casinos are playing. They want to use it
Yeah,
as something to draw in people. Yeah.
It's not the end all and the be all for the casinos. They also want, to offer virtual sports wagering, because there is some money to be made, in taking bets from people on their cell phones. And what we don't know where the ceiling is on that is what is known as in-play gambling, which is very 21st century.
Yeah.
People who are sports fans or sports gamblers who are cast in the 20th century, really have a hard time wrapping their arms around that. But in-play sports wagering has an opportunity to really boost this number that I've been saying is, at the end of the day, it's really not that much. Well, we don't know what, where in-play is going to take it. I mean, it can be much more significant.
It's fascinating. The other day, I was watching something that I've watched for about 15 years, the hot dog eating contest that takes place in Coney Island.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating how, what's her name? Jessie Coulter, or the woman who does all those ads, and Make It Rain for DraftKings.
Right.
She was on touting you during the event before we start, how many hot dogs do you think, and they were really to get people to bet on the event that was about to take place.
Yeah,
I had not seen that yet before.
Well, I just wrote about a new deal. Every day there's a new deal.
Right.
It's a deal a day with sports gambling and sports franchises and sports leagues. It's part of, it's hard to believe what the position was of big sports, 6 years ago,
Right.
where they are now. But DraftKings just made a deal with Major League Baseball, where DraftKings will get to put like a game of the week on their platform.
Okay.
On, I believe, Monday nights. And so you go to DraftKings, you go to the DraftKings app on your computer, and you watch the ball game, and you'll be able to bet on the game.
On that one game.
The betting proposition will be offered, as they go on. And I've always said, baseball is an interesting sport for this because of the pace. Who was it? It might have been Adam Silver said to Rob Manfred. Do I have the names right? Rob Manfred.
Rob Manfred's baseball, Adam Silver's NBA.
Yeah, Silver. I think it was Silver who, and I don't know if this is an apocryphal story or a real story.
Right.
Where Silver said, you've been moaning and groaning about the pace of your game. You know what? That may turn out to be a real blessing in disguise, because now you can put up prop bets in between the pitches, because the damn pitchers take so long to throw a pitch.
Yeah.
And you will be able to post a prop on speed of the pitch, put a little RFID chip in the ball, speed of the pitch, does the ball go in play?
And what's taking place within that inning can affect other wagering offers they're going to make you.
Yep, exactly.
Over unders and things of that nature.
So it's pretty much an unknown as to how much, traction, how much juice operators will get from in-play wagering, which is a type of wagering that's going to be very appealing to millennials.
All right. So we've talked about a half an hour now, which is how long I said I'd keep you on, and we haven't really dealt with Maryland per se. Give us the latest on the schedule for when people will be able to go to a bricks and mortar place to bet, because that's going to come first,
right,
before you're going to be able to bet on your tablet or on your phone or your computer.
Well, and again, there is no date etched in stone,
right?
So it's all dependent on process. Just today, the Maryland Lottery and Gambling Commission, or I guess late last night, they dropped a draft version of regulations, which are necessary for gambling operators to even begin the application process.
Mm-hmm.
But look, it is purely a guess. If the guess is, when will people start making bets at live? Live, it's got a sports book all set up.
All set up, ready to go.
You go down there and it says FanDuel already. They got the TVs. They got, places for the kiosks, got betting desks. They're all champing at the bit at Maryland Live. When will they get to be able to actually take bets? I'm guessing. Maybe the middle of football season, maybe.
So now it doesn't look like they'll be ready to go before, like, just as the football season starts.
We're in the middle of July.
Yeah.
I mean, how does that happen?
Okay.
We're in the middle of July. Training camp starts in August. We're only what, we're 6 weeks out.
We're about 7 weeks away from September, the weekend of the 12th or 13th.
I mean, tomorrow the Gambling Commission votes on the draft, the draft regulations. And then there's going to be public comment.
All right.
And then people have to apply and they've got to go through the investigations. And
all right.
And the reason why the lives will get it going sooner, because they've already gone through like a lot of the investigation. Right. I mean, to have a casino. So it's optimistic to say the middle of the season, frankly.
Okay. All right. That sounds interesting. How far beyond that do you think the ability to bet on things on your PC, your tablet, or your phone?
Yeah, I'm going
6 months.
With, Gordon Mendenica, who was no longer at the Gaming Commission, the Lottery and Gaming Commission. What he said to me in an interview, I don't know, maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago, he thought maybe for the 2022 football season, online.
2022 football season.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
which would be about 6 to 9 months beyond when you think we'll be betting on games at the brick and mortar
maybe
place.
9 months beyond.
Okay.
And again, maybe from right now, maybe 12 to 14 months.
Okay. Tell me one last thing, or one last area, not one last question.
Yeah.
Are teams going to have multiple affiliates that they're somehow dealing with?
In a word, yes.
That they're making, they're going to be making money from 3 or 4 or 5 different.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, look at the Ravens.
Yeah.
I mean, the Horseshoe is your official casino partner.
Right. But yet you're hooked up with BetMGM.
And BetMGM is their official, gambling partner of some sort. And my understanding is that that's not an exclusive deal.
Right.
With BetMGM. So the answer is yes. I think that you're going to see sports franchises being hooked up with multiple operators. Absolutely. They're not going to miss a beat on this.
Last question I do have for you is the old fears about gambling, affecting sports and the honesty of the outcome,
the integrity of the game.
Is there the more that this is in the blood work of sports?
Yeah.
Is it less likely to have an impact on the integrity of the games?
I'm going to say that the fact that there is more light being shown on any given game, that it helps the integrity of the game. Because if games were going to be fixed, they were just as likely
done in the darkness. Yeah.
Yeah. When all the gambling was being done, in darkness. And let's remember something I have not said. The vast majority of sports gambling in the United States is still done with illegal bookmakers. Vast majority. Now,
will that be the case 5 years from now, Bill?
Good question. I don't know. I don't know what would change the trajectory.
Yeah.
I mean, all the big operators, the DraftKings of the world, Jason Robbins, the guy who runs DraftKings, I mean, he has said in his earnings calls, all the big money is still offshore. He said, and he doesn't have a magic solution to get those gamblers and move them onto legal markets. And there are good reasons. And those reasons are the offshore guys allow bigger bets on a more consistent basis. They don't necessarily bar the really good sports gamblers. The good sports gamblers are already moaning and groaning that they're being barred from the regulated sites.
Right.
And the offshore guys aren't paying taxes, which means they can offer better deals, better odds. Yeah. I don't know what's going to change in the next 5 years that would change that dynamic.
One last thing I want to touch on, it has nothing to do with sports gambling. You and I have done some good work together, and
Yes.
most of it's the work of you writing for Pressbox before you took this job with gambling.com.
Right.
And we brought you the story, and it really came to us from Derek Watte and my other producer, whose name escapes me right now. I can't believe that. But they went down and did a story for our TV show, Inside Pressbox, about 6 years ago on a young fighter from Baltimore City named Gervonta Davis.
Yeah.
And we came up with the idea. We said, Bill, you're the guy to write this, a cover story on Gervonta Davis.
Yeah.
And just about 10 days ago, 12 days ago, he won a super lightweight championship fight. He beat a very good fighter named Barrios.
Yeah.
And he now holds basically from 130 to 140. He's got all three belts in there. I just want to give ourselves a pat on the back, and your original piece on him.
Thank
Do you have any idea he was destined to be this good?
No, not this good. You imagine him to dominate his class. And, the thing about Gervonta Davis, and, what we did was pretty much the quote unquote origins story.
Yep.
And how he came to be, difficult background, taken under the wing by
Floyd Mayweather.
Well, the guy down at the gym in West Baltimore.
Calvin Ford. Yeah.
Calvin Ford. It was a great story. And he looked like he was going, he looked like he was going to be a great fighter, and it turned out to be a great fighter. I'm not, I thought he had the opportunity to be sort of a Sugar Ray Leonard type.
Yeah.
Good looking.
I think he's got a lot more. I think he has a lot more power than people give him credit for.
Oh, well, yeah, that's for sure.
And he has this combination of speed and power that if he can continue it, I think he can jump up another 5 to 7 pounds. I think he's got that in him.
Yeah, I don't know
We'll
where
see.
the ceiling is going to be on that.
But you did a great job, and I want to pat Pressbox on the back.
Yeah,
We were 3-4 years in front of anybody else on that story here.
well, you steered it in my direction.
Yeah.
We did it. I thought Pressbox did a great job with it.
All right. He's Bill Ordine. He's with gambling.com. He's there every day. And I know that literally is the case, Bill. It's
Busy place. Yeah.
last thing I got to ask you, the difference, and I'm not trying to be negative, the difference between working at the height of your career with the Philadelphia Inquirer in Philly,
Yeah.
whether it was sports or investigative stories, compare that to writing online today. It's just,
Yeah.
there's no end of writing online, is there?
There really is not, and the pace is fairly daunting because of the appetite. The consumer appetite, the reader's appetite. They want to come back to the website every day if they like the website.
Yep.
They're going to come back every day, and they may want to come back multiple times a day.
Yep.
Which means the website has to
Has to give them
change.
something new and fresh. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So it is it's a much different pace than working for a newspaper where you run the presses, for a couple of hours every night, and then you shut down the presses and you start all over again. This is a lot more like
It's like feeding the monster.
it is. You got to feed the beast. That's true.
All right. He's Bill Ordine. He's a good friend, and he does a great job at gambling.com. Ron Fritz is his boss. He used to be the sports editor at The Sun.
Yep.
And it's a great marriage over there at gambling.com. We're pleased to have you whenever we can grab you. All right, Bill?
Glad to be here, Stan.
All right. I'll be back on Monday night with Ross Grimsley, and Ross has set up an interview with Shane Turner, who he's known for some time. And Shane Turner apparently wants to sound off in the state of baseball right now. So we'll do that. And then next Wednesday, Terry Hazeltine will join us to talk about the state's effort to be a serious player in the 2026 World Cup, which is going to take place in Canada, the United States, and Mexico. We remind you that we've been brought to you by C3 American Exteriors. Again, go to their website at c3america.com. You get a brand new roof for just the cost of your insurance deductible. And as I said at the start, when you have the expense of fixing or replacing a roof, you need to know the people you're dealing with, you need to like them, and you need to trust them. I can say all three of those things about C3 American Exteriors. For Bill Ordine, I'm Stan Charles. Have a nice evening.